I'm a pediatrician, and I know you're going to hear me talking a lot about children and mothers, but also fathers. And I'm here to talk about the first 1,000 days of life. Now, in the first 1,000 days of life, many of you may be wondering, why 1,000? Why not the first 10 days of life of a baby? But I want all of us to appreciate that the first 1,000 days start 60 days even before the woman becomes pregnant. 60 days. That means that the woman is preparing, she's feeding well, her husband is soothing her, preparing to get her pregnant, you know, and she's eating important food, including enough proteins, enough iron, the folic acid, as she prepares to become pregnant. Ladies and gentlemen, I know not many of you are Nalongos and Salongos in this house, so big up to the Nalongos and Salongos, and also big up to the parents in the room, and those of you who plan to become parents soon, or become parents tonight. But the point I want to make here is, we need to be serious about when we are planning to have our babies, because we know now that you can plan to have a baby girl or a baby boy depending on when you have your sexual relations with your partner. That 2 days before ovulation, you're likely to have a baby girl. The day of ovulation is likely to be a baby boy. But you have to be disciplined, and it requires discipline to have a planned kid. We've had a lot of bubbles and jokes about planned kids, but Ugandans, we need to get serious about having planned kids. Gone are the days when we were like our great-great-grandparents who just have babies, you know, to God be the glory, and you give birth to 25 kids, 11, and see who is going to survive. Today we would like to see every child that we give birth to survive, not only survive but thrive, and then finally transform our society. If a child grows up and reaches their full potential, they are going to transform our society, and we shall truly become a middle-income country in the highest status. But if 43% of our population, who are children, do not grow up to reach their fullest potential, and they continue to be beggars on the streets, they continue to be exported as brain drain, then we shall not develop as a country. So we would like to plan for our children, we would like to plan for them well, and plan for them in the first 1,000 days. And the first 1,000 days are critical, and critical because the nutrition of a mother is so important as to how much her baby's brain will grow. We now know that the brain starts to develop in the first 6 weeks of life, in utero. That means by the time you miss your first period, your baby's brain is starting to develop. And if, unfortunately, you've not been feeding well, that baby's brain may not grow to its maximum capacity. A human brain is about 1.5 kilograms. I know many of you may start touching your heads and wondering, am I carrying 1.5 kilos on our head? And it doesn't mean necessarily that if your head is really large, that your brain is also similarly large. It is known that women have a slightly bigger brain than men, and no wonder 70% of the baby's brain matter comes from the mother. So gentlemen, take it seriously, especially for those of you who are not yet married, to marry a woman who's brilliant. As you marry this brilliant woman, make sure that before she becomes pregnant, that you're feeding her well, that she has enough protein, enough iron, enough omega-3, enough copper, enough zinc, enough selenium. So as the baby is growing in the womb, it's important for mom to feed well. And also, as soon as the baby is born, the baby needs to be fed on breast milk. Can you please tell your neighbor, breast milk? Breast milk and not water. Breast milk and not beer. Breast milk and not kashera. Breast milk and not mushroom soup, but breast milk. And the breast milk has to continue for at least 6 months of life. The reason why it should be exclusive is because breast milk contains all the nutrients that a baby needs in the first 6 months of life. All the nutrients that the mother can give to her baby should be in that breast milk. Of course, there are situations where a mom cannot give breast milk, but those are not the people we are talking about today. And also we know that when mom chooses to give other milk and not breast milk, this baby is likely to develop fat cells that they keep in the back of their back, okay? And that eventually, if you overfeed your baby, this baby may become obese later on in life. There's a correlation between overfeeding a baby and obesity later on in life. For those of you who may have calculated the first 1,000 days, I heard that there were engineers in the room. Yes. Where does 1,000 days take us in life? Slightly above 2 years, right? And you know that a baby's brain grows very, very quickly in the first 2 years of life. And if the brain is growing very quickly, it means that the brain needs food. And the best food for the brain is protein. The best food for that brain is also minerals. If that baby is starved of protein, that baby is going to develop a condition we call malnutrition. And malnutrition has ranges. It has severe acute malnutrition with edema, severe acute malnutrition without edema. Long time ago, we used to call those diseases kwashiorkor and marasmus. And it is true that if a child develops marasmus or kwashiorkor, their brain is actually not going to go to its maximum. They will probably never become the engineers or the doctors or the communication specialists that you would want them to be. So we need to take care of them when the brain is still growing. Of course, we know that the brain continues to grow until 25 years. And after 25 years, the brain cells start dying until you sign out. So let us take feeding seriously. The plate of food that we give to our children should be balanced. It should have at least 5 colors of food, not 5 colors of the plate, but 5 colors of food. So proteins, carbohydrates, the minerals, the vitamins, some water, so that the baby's brain continues to grow. Did you know that a baby's brain works 2 times faster? A 3-year-old's brain works 2 times faster than an adult's brain. Did you also know that our brains work for just about 10 or 30% of their maximum capacity? So you can imagine, babies are thinking, they are looking, they are searching, they are learning, and therefore, if you frustrate a child by not feeding them well, by stressing them and they become depressed, their brain is not going to grow. So I want to say 3 points, because I know my time is fast spent. That the first 1,000 days are so critical. And the most critical thing that we need to think about is the brain. The brain of the child is going to determine if they are going to survive, thrive, and transform their societies. But also, the mother's health is so important when she is planning to become pregnant, but also when she is pregnant and when she is breastfeeding that child. But fathers are not left out. Fathers keep saying we neglect them, there's no Father's Day, every day is Mother's Day, Valentine's Day is Mother's Day, Mother's Day is Mother's Day, and Women's Day is also Mother's Day. But we want you to reflect, dear fathers in the room, and prospective fathers and grandfathers, that your role is also vital, that you should ensure that your partner, your wife, goes for antenatal checks at least 8 times. From the time a woman misses her period, she should start her first antenatal. And she should go for at least 8 antenatal visits and screen for diseases that could affect the child's brain. And these diseases include HIV, syphilis, hepatitis B, cytomegalovirus, toxoplasmosis. There are so many. But it's important for the mother to be screened. And fathers, your voices are so relevant. Sorry to our colleague from Burundi whose voice has disappeared. I hope your wife is not pregnant. Because when a woman is pregnant, it's so important for the father to sing to that baby in the womb. You don't have to be a baritone singer, but just learn how to sing. Sing to that baby. Speak to the baby. Profess positivity. Right? So that by the time the baby is born, they actually know your voice. Babies start to hear at about maybe 3 months of pregnancy. They start to hear. But those babies who cannot hear obviously will not know their father's voice. But that's a different story. As babies are growing up, it's important for us to ensure that their feeding is good. I know, and I'm not judging anybody here, but parents have resorted to feeding well during the day, and then they go home and they give their families porridge. But the families should feed well, especially the children. For us, we've grown, and maybe we've not reached our tallest heights, maybe we've not achieved our fullest potential, but we should care for the future. We should care for the children. Because remember, children are our future. If we mess up with them, then we are messing up our future. And if we don't feed them properly, they are not going to reach their maximum potential. There's a condition in nutrition called stunting, and that is height for age. It's unfortunate that there are people in Uganda, at least 1 out of 3 Ugandans are stunted. That's huge. But we can reverse this. We can reverse this because stunting is also affecting the brain of the child. The ideal situation would be that every single child has equity and that every single child born starting today never becomes stunted. By ensuring that the mother feeds well, by ensuring that the baby breastfeeds for a whole 6 months, by ensuring that the mother has enough food. I like the fact when you said that one of the Rotarians in this club is skilling women. And empowering women is so critical in ensuring that their babies survive. Yeah. So thank you to the Rotarian who's empowering those women. Rotarian Margaret, big ups to you. But gentlemen here, for those of you who are already fathers, congratulations. Prospective fathers, please leave that money on the kameza. Yes. And not only should the woman plan for food, but should plan to also invest in that kameza money so that she can manage the money on her own and buy food that is important for the children. It's up to you. You plan with your wife. I think the most important thing is communication. My kameza money may not be your kameza money because you donated 250,000 bucks to Rotary. But anyway, I hope you've got the point, dear friends, that the first 1,000 days are critical. If you miss that opportunity, it will be like a runner who does not prepare to win the race. We want all the children to win the race. And winning the race means they will be able to grow up and be influencers in life, will be responsible people in life, and that they will grow up and even become the future Rotarians or Rotaractors. We all want to live until 100 years, don't we? We want to be like the Japanese. We want to suffer from longevity. But we cannot suffer from longevity if we are not feeding well, if we are not sleeping enough, if we are not socially interacting. The president asked us to speak to our neighbor and smile. And I thought some people were not smiling. Please smile, because it makes people believe that you are not hurting. Depression is something that is hurting many people. And when people are depressed, they may not be healthy. They may never really know that they are depressed until they hurt themselves. With that, Madam President, I'll stop and wait for any questions.
I'm a mother to a toddler who doesn't like to eat. a lot. And so we have a lot of episodes on eating. But so my worry is sometimes when we go to hospital, you will hear things like, she's below 50th percentile, or those terms. What is the implication of those percentiles?
Thank you, Dr. Sabrina, for that wonderful talk. My question is on nutrition. You've talked about feeding our children well, giving them proteins, giving them vitamins and whatever. But I wish I could know the specific food combination that we should look at, so that we know that we are doing the right thing. Because when you say generally that we feed them well, some people may not easily know exactly when you say feeding well. If you say proteins, what are the foods that have proteins, so that we know that combination which we would do, so that we don't make mistakes. Thank you.
Madam, for a wonderful talk. My inquiry is one. Do you think that if parents know what to do, they can avoid having obese kids? Thank you.
If a baby or a child is complaining of has a red eye, also complains of the ear, then the stomach, which specialist do you visit?
When we talk about a balanced diet and we talk about proteins, I'm sure we all know what proteins are, don't we? The men don't. So protein is the nice, there are animal proteins, especially meat, beans, fish. Those are the proteins. Milk also has a lot of protein. And then the plant proteins are beans, peas, simsim. Those are where we get our proteins from. Then carbohydrates. We all know carbohydrates, don't we?
Hello.
She said kalo, she knows where she likes it. Kalo, anyone mention a carbohydrate that you like?
Rice.
For sure, rice, pasta, sweet potatoes. Anyone else? Irish potatoes. Okay. Then obviously cassava is a good one. We need to avoid over-processed food, and this also speaks to the question of should we give our babies over-processed food from the supermarket. As much as possible, please avoid over-processed food for children below the age of 3. If it is over-processed, if it is packed in a container and you have to open that container, avoid it. The fresher the food, the better the food. Remember, Uganda, we are a food basket. We grow a lot of food and it is fresh. We don't have to store it, we don't have to preserve it. And please let our children feed right straight from the garden to the plate is the best food. Straight from the garden to the kitchen to the plate, that's the best food. Why should we buy food that has been over-processed from another country? Because you have money. I once visited a mall which I won't mention, but on one side of that mall, there's a nice healthy food that is cooked well, it's more expensive. Then on the other side of the mall, there's a lot of chicken and chips. And if you look at the children sitting around the table where there's chips and a lot of chicken, they are obese. The children who are richer in the other side of the mall, they are lean. They are most likely wearing sports shirts. They've come from a football match. So let us not get it wrong. In the US, they've done studies and they've clearly demonstrated the poorer you are, the more likely you are to eat fast food. The poorer you are, the more likely you are to be obese. So let us do the maths. Let us wake up and smell the coffee. Money should not push you to feed your child wrongly. Remember our great-grandparents, they were not obese. They ate from their gardens, they farmed a lot, they walked many miles, but for us, because we think we are rich, we buy fast food, we sit all the time. Actually, where are we sitting all the time? We sit all the time, we drive our children while they are seated, and then we complain that they are obese. Obesity is going to hurt the children. We are going to get bigger numbers of people with non-communicable diseases. Diseases like hypertension, diabetes. It becomes a syndrome, a vicious cycle that causes renal failure. And if I tell you that one kidney costs 1 billion Ugandan shillings, you'll appreciate that you don't want to get obesity-related diseases. Let us be cautious. So, the mom of a toddler who was told that her baby is below the 50th centile, that's okay. I think what is not okay is if the child's growth curve is flattening. But if the child's growth curve is going in a straight line and it's below the 50th centile, it is well. That is how the baby was born. In life, we all live on a bell curve. There are people who are really small. There are people who are in the middle, in the 50th percentile line. And then there are people who are on the other side at the 90th centile. People who fall off the bell curve are called outliers. And if your baby is falling off the 5th centile, that means there's a problem. If your baby falls off the 95th centile, that means bigger than the biggest in her age group, that is a problem. But if they are growing normally, that's okay. So I hope we all have our immunization cards at this point. If you still have your immunization card which your parent passed on to you, please raise your hand. Please give us a clap. We have our immunization cards. The rest of you, where are your cards?
Never got.
Okay. Did you keep your children's immunization cards?
Yes.
Please pass them on to their partners when they are getting married. Yeah? To prove that you're passing on a healthy. I saw that in Japan many years ago. I went for a marriage ceremony, not mine, I was attending. But at that exchange of, you know how people go for Kwanjula or Kuhinjira, one of the things that they exchange is the immunization card. We need to reach that level of confidence in our health system, of saying that I have passed on a healthy child with a normal body mass index, with good morals, so that you're not passing on whatever you feel like. By the time the Japanese chose to hand over the immunization card, it meant that they've reached a certain level of development where infections don't commonly occur because they've fully vaccinated their people. They have over 45 molecules that they vaccinate their people with. They are so healthy. That's why they live to over 100 years. 15% of Japanese are centurions. They are above 100 years. So the other question I had was over processed food. Alcohol. Dear ladies and gentlemen, if you're planning to become pregnant, in the 60 days before you become pregnant, the best thing for you is to avoid alcohol. If you like the smell of malt, you can drink non-alcoholic malt. You don't have to drink the beer. It's sold in the market. Non-alcoholic beer. It's there. Or you can drink bushera. It looks like beer. You know? Fetal alcohol syndrome is a real syndrome, dear friends. The babies, when they are born, they are very small, they have a small brain, and sometimes they have a hole in the heart. So as you tank your beer, your whiskey, your wine, posing around with your lubuto, be sure that you don't want to be blamed for your child's condition when they are born. You can avoid alcohol for at least 1 year. It won't kill you. No one has ever died from lack of alcohol.
You said 1 year. What about breastfeeding?
Well, the ideal would have been 1,000 days. But if you're pregnant, and a Ugandan woman is pregnant until proved otherwise, avoid alcohol. Okay, so not even wine. Just avoid alcohol. You can drink non-alcoholic wine, you can drink water where you would have. You can put your water in a glass, you know. So there are children with increasing abnormalities, and I think it's because of increasing awareness. And because mothers are having fewer babies, each baby is very special. Remember I told you our great-great-grandparents could have given birth to 17 or 18 or 20, and the children could have collapsed and died and no one knew the condition. Today people go out of their way to confirm what is wrong with my baby. And maybe that's why we are seeing more people coming with more abnormalities. So if a baby complains of a red eye, tummy ache, what, I think those things can be treated by a general doctor. It's unfortunate when, as a person who's super specialized, you're being called to treat a cough, a flu. There are so many doctors in Uganda, there are like over 4,000 now. But they are not enough. We need more doctors. And they are general pediatricians, there are about 700 pediatricians now. And today, pediatricians are sub-specializing and becoming cardiologists, infectious diseases specialists, nephrologists, neurologists. It's a lot. But for simple aches, a generalist can work. Where do I work? I teach at Makerere University. I work at Mulago Hospital. I don't do a private practice. It's my choice. And if you call me, I may refer you to a private practice if you're interested in going to a private hospital. If you want to come to Mulago, you're welcome. Thank you.